you wouldn't be back here if it was for you, because that would mean you would have beaten George and maybe you'd be fighting elsewhere.
Fight somewhere else. Well, you know, either way, I'm glad to be back. I had a great time last time. Canadian fans are amazing. The fans here in Montreal are amazing. I'm excited to come in and put it on another good fight.
Is there anything you took out of that fight to be able to use the last few months, you know, both inside the cage on Saturday night and then outside the cage to get ready for it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I did the best I could to prepare for George, knowing what I knew. You know, but you got to kind of go in there and do a test run, and you know, figure out if what you're working is, you know, is going to pay off. And it almost did, but there was definitely some things that I had to improve on and tweak. And I went back home and I did that, and I think I'm better for it.
You want to share what some of those things were? Or is that save that for Sunday?
Yeah, you guys will see.
Did it take longer than usual to get over the loss? Or?
Oh, I'm still not over it, but. No, not really. Part of me is still disappointed, but I used it as a learning experience. You know, motivation. I'm ready to come back with a vengeance on Saturday night. Get back in there, get back in title contention.
So is the win over Hendricks enough to get you back into a fight with GSP?
We'll see. You know, you never know. The title picture is never a straight line. You know, there's always the talk of the super fight between George and Anderson. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I just got to focus on beating Johnny Hendricks.
What did the change of opponent do to you, Carlos? Two different guys.
Well, initially I was a little bit bummed out. I wanted to fight Rory, but I got over that pretty quick once we, you know, solidified the match with Johnny Hendricks. And you know, it's an exciting fight. It's a tough matchup for sure. It's quite a different style matchup because Rory's a really polished technical striker. Johnny Hendricks is more of a brawler with a lot of power in his hands. So there was some adjustment, but you know, I feel like I'm prepared.
Do you think, though, with your fight with George, that I mean, obviously everybody can be beaten, but you kind of showed he was human. You were so close with that kick. Do you think that people see George a little differently now after that fight?
I don't know. He's been shown to be human before in his fights. I don't know. I went in there and I thought I caught him, but you know what he did show is he showed a lot of heart. He came back from adversity, and you know he really wanted to win. So,
what did you think of the exchange between Nick and George on the telephone conference?
It was very entertaining. I was sitting there trying not to laugh out loud.
Now they have you pegged as an underdog, the folks in Vegas. Do you feel like you deserve to be coming into it as an underdog, considering you just fought the champ and Johnny's never been there?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't pay too much attention to the odds. I'm usually the underdog. It's something that I'm used to. So, you know, whatever. I'm just gonna go in there and you know, be focused on coming away with the win.
Did you take any time off after GSP just to sort of refocus?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I went on vacation with my family. You know, I always stay active, but you know, I wasn't just sitting on the couch eating Cheetos.
Carlos, Johnny Hendricks said he called Dana White and said he wanted this fight. What do you make of that?
I'm glad he did. You know, it's a great matchup. Like I said, he's the tough fighter, dangerous fighter, but the reward will definitely pay off if I'm able to come out with a win.
When you look at his fights, I mean, he's been using his left hand a lot, but his wrestling, how have you prepared to, you know, he's a national champion. What have you been doing to prepare for that?
I've been wrestling a little bit. No, but lately he's been showing, you know, his stand-up, you know, his knockout ability. But he does have, I think, a well-rounded ability. He's made a great transition from wrestling to mixed martial arts. I think he's got some jiu-jitsu, some ground game that he hasn't shown. So, you know, I'm expecting a really tough fight, but you know, I think we've done well to prepare for him.
So Nate Diaz and Roy have both asked for fights with you again after you beat them both. What have you done against Bullseye? Are you the man to beat in the welterweight division?
Well, for one, I'm coming off the title fight, and I think that always puts a big X on you. But I don't know, guys. You know, I like rematches too. Honestly, either of those rematches is a compelling fight too. So, you know, I'm glad that, you know, people still want to fight me. So means you have something they want.
So you're comfortable kind of having that bullseye on you and saying, you know what, I am the guy you have to beat to prove that you deserve to be in the title picture.
I guess so.
You said have been fighting for a title or a #1 contender spot, but this time with all the talk around Johnny Hendricks in it, I thought your role is sort of as you want to play spoiler. Does that change your approach to the fight, and what are your thoughts on playing the spoiler?
You know what? All that stuff is kind of just it's just details. Ultimately you got to get in there and fight the man across the cage from you. You got to win your fight, whether it's for a title fight or for whatever your amateur debut. You got to win the fights to move up.
Will Greg Jackson be back on your corner for this fight?
Yep. I've been training with Greg quite a bit for this fight, and he will be in my corner.
And knowing that, does it change your mindset compared to the last fight where you knew he wasn't going to beat you?
No, not so much. It'll be great to have him back, but now as far as the mindset or mentality, no different.
Do you watch your fights over? Did you watch the GSP fight?
I watched the GSP fight one time when I got home, and then after that I haven't watched it.
And did anything change after viewing it the second time or the first time?
Yeah. I saw where I made mistakes. I saw where I did well, and now I'm going to try to capitalize on those opportunities where I did well, and try to correct those things that I did wrong, basically. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I did. He came out a couple times, helped me work on my jiu-jitsu.
So let's say you work. It's a hypothetical scenario, but let's say you work your way back on top of the welterweight division, get a title shot, but it's not against George because whatever he lost to Diaz or he moved to 185. Would you get as much satisfaction winning the title, but not avenging the loss to George you get from State?
I mean, I don't know. It'd be a great scenario to be in the title picture again, to be in another title fight. No matter who is against, of course I'd want to avenge my loss, but that's kind of, like you said, kind of a hypothetical what if.
What would come first, a revenge against George or a title shot?
Diaz. Fight against Diaz.
Diaz. That would be on top of your list?
Yep.
Even if you beat him. Want to beat him again?
When you fought him, did he surprise you in any way? Was he what you expected?
Who, George?
No, Nick.
Nick. No, honestly, we studied that fight, and we studied the fighter extensively. We knew what Nick did well, and so there was no surprises.
Do you think that Diaz can beat Diaz?
I think that he can. I'm not sure that he will. I think George is gonna take the fight, but yeah, I think that Diaz can beat him.
Are you excited about what the result of that fight is going to be, or are you just strictly focused on your fight? Are you looking forward to the main event?
Yeah, I am, definitely. Two guys that I fought, my last two fights. See how it pans out. Depending on how that fight goes and my fight goes, it could put me right back in a title shot.
So going back to your fight, everyone knows that Johnny Hendricks has devastating finishing power. So do you. You're a finisher. However, you have shown that you can be very technical in your striking against Diaz. What should we look for in this fight? Are you going to try to finish Hendricks fast, or are you going to use your technique to kind of move around him and wear him down over the course of the fight?
I think probably a little bit of both. Of course, I'm going to try to finish, and if I can finish early, great. But a lot of times, especially with a really tough fighter like Hendricks, you're going to have to set up your knockout. You're going to have to build it from with a game plan.
And you also have a really good submission game. Is that something you think will factor in because he's a wrestler? Do you think you can maybe go for a tap out if he tries to hold you against the cage or take you down?
I think all of these are possibilities. Like you said, he's a great wrestler. He may try to take the fight to the ground. We'll just have to see what happens.
Where do you think his head's at this week? I mean, because of the fact that he has been very vocal that you shouldn't have to have this fight with you, he should be fighting George right now.
I don't know, man. I think that Johnny Hendricks is a competitor. He's a gamer. He's a highly decorated college wrestler, and I think he's going to be ready to fight on Saturday.
So it's 2 weeks notice for both of you. Who's that harder on, you or him?
It was more like a month, but I don't know.
You're very adaptable. Do you have a game plan already kind of worked out for this is the top 5 guys, this is how I would do it with either one of them?
No, but I do have great coaches in my corner who are masters at game planning and you know, strategizing against the different styles. So I have a lot of help with that.
So a month is enough time for you to get ready for Hendricks?
Absolutely. I was in good shape. The fight it's different in their styles, but their skill sets, you know, good striking and good wrestling and good top games are in a way somewhat similar.
Is there anyone you got to get the style of Johnny Hendricks? You know, to mimic the style of Johnny Hendricks? Anyone in particular?
No, you know, not any one particular person. You know, a lot of times you use different people with certain aspects of your opponent to simulate their skills.
Can you use some of the things you learned while preparing for Diaz because they're both lefties?
Definitely. I mean, southpaw. You know, there's certain ways to fight a southpaw. It's not as cut and dry as people like to make it seem, but yeah, I think that there's definitely some things that I take away from that fight, some things that I'll take away from the George St. Pierre fight and the training camp leading up to it.
So how do you expect him to approach you? Because he's straight from his wrestling sometimes he's very boxing heavy, sometimes he does go to his wrestling. How do you think he'll approach you?
I think a little bit of both. It's easy to land strikes when a guy's worried about your takedowns, and vice versa. It's easy to land takedowns when the guy's worried about your strikes. So I'm gonna have to be aware and cognizant of all that stuff.
Yeah. How difficult is it to prepare? There's lots of guys who are big punchers. There's lots of guys who are really good wrestlers. There's not a lot of guys who are both. That puzzle to solve. I mean, how difficult is it to sort of prepare for both?
You know, honestly, I've really been just focusing on what I do well. I know that Johnny Hendricks has a great game and, you know, a lot of really dangerous skills, but you know, I feel sharp in my skills and my preparation.
Hey, when Rory fell off, did you guys actively campaign to stay on this card, or were you kind of just in wait and see mode and see if UFC called with a different opponent?
No, immediately they wanted to keep me on the card. Gave us some different options for opponents. You know, we called around. Some guys weren't going to be ready, and you know, the way it turned out, you know, fighting Johnny.
Now I wanted to ask about Rory. He pulled out of this fight. He's had a kind of a history of pulling out of fights. Does that make you maybe a little bit apprehensive? Obviously, this fight with you is something he wants. Are you a little bit apprehensive of getting into a training camp, knowing that about him?
No, I think that can happen with anybody. It's the nature of the sport. People get hurt. So no, I mean, you can't have that in the back of your mind, really. I mean, you just have to.
Last question, guys.
Things change.
Have you ever worked out in a mall before?
Have I ever worked out in a mall? No, I don't believe so.